When Vivian slid the divorce papers across the table, the anniversary candle had burned down to the line I had carved into it that morning. She was still in her Navy captain's uniform. The silver bars on her shoulders caught the light every time she moved. Noah stood behind her, nearly 10 years younger, holding the bottle of wine I had bought for us. Vivian didn't sit. "I'm in love with him," she said, in the same calm voice she used when giving a flight briefing. "And I'm done waiting for the right season to live my life." I looked at Noah, then back at her. She kept going. She was tired of talking about a bigger house, children, retirement plans, and all the other things we had kept moving to the next year. With Noah, she said, she felt young again. She felt like she still belonged in the sky. Then she pulled off her wedding ring and placed it on the walnut table I had restored by hand. The ring rolled half a turn and stopped against the folder for our family planning consultation. I stared at it for a moment. "Are we still going to the appointment on Thursday?" Vivian frowned as if that was the one question she hadn't prepared for. "No." The word landed harder than the divorce papers. She drew a breath. "I never truly wanted children, Ethan. I just didn't know how to tell you after you'd waited so long." That was the moment something inside me went quiet. I wasn't only losing my marriage. I was losing a future that had been postponed for 10 years because it had never existed for her at all. Noah shifted his weight. "I'm not here to provoke you," he said. His trainee badge was still clipped to his jacket. Under his name, the company had listed Vivian as his supervising captain. I pointed to it. "Does your training program usually let students stand in their instructor's marriage like this?" His jaw tightened. Vivian stepped between us. "What happens at work has nothing to do with our divorce." "It might," I said. Her eyes sharpened. "We've been separated in every meaningful sense for months." That sentence told me why she had brought him into my dining room. This wasn't only about ending our marriage. She needed me to help rewrite the timeline. I opened the agreement. Near the end, Vivian proposed that she keep the townhouse while I moved out. She also expected me to continue paying half the mortgage until her next promotion cycle was complete. Her explanation was surprisingly direct. Noah's training stipend was too low for them to afford another place. I looked up. "Is he also the reason money is missing from our savings?" Vivian's lashes flickered. Noah turned toward her. For several seconds, neither of them spoke. Then she admitted she had paid part of his advanced flight training costs. "It was a loan," she said. "He'll pay it back once he's hired permanently." "What was that money for?" She didn't answer. It had been set aside for converting the upstairs study and beginning our family care approval process. I had waited through every stage of her career. I had moved 4 times, changed jobs 3 times, and built our life around her training blocks, base assignments, recurrent checks, and promotion windows. Now she had used our savings to buy another man flight hours and wanted me to help cover the house where she planned to start over with him. I didn't throw a glass. I didn't hit Noah. I closed the agreement and pushed it back across the table. "From now on, everything goes through attorneys." Vivian's shoulders loosened. She mistook restraint for surrender. Then she nudged a suitcase toward me with the toe of her shoe. "You can stay at a hotel tonight." I looked at the suitcase. "Did you forget both our names are on the deed?" "I have a long-haul flight tomorrow," she said. "I can't deal with this all night. I can't be thrown out of my own home because your schedule is inconvenient." Noah lifted a hand. "Maybe everyone should calm down." I turned to him. "The person who should calm down is the adult wearing a trainee badge while standing in his instructor's marriage." He lowered his hand. Vivian's mouth hardened. Without another word, she picked up her overnight bag and led Noah upstairs to the guest room. I didn't follow them. I opened my laptop, signed into our joint bank account, and downloaded 2 years of statements. The account belonged to both of us. I already had lawful access. I did not move the remaining money. I changed my payroll deposit to a new individual account and left enough in the joint account to cover that month's mortgage and recurring bills. Then I emailed a family law attorney named Olivia Grant. "My wife has asked for a divorce and admitted using marital funds to finance the flight training of a trainee she supervises." Olivia answered before dawn. "Do not delete messages. Do not drain accounts. Do not access private devices. Do not contact the airline. Do not post anything online." She told me to bring bank records, the deed, mortgage statements, retirement documents, and recent tax returns to her office in the morning. I followed every instruction. I slept on the folding bed in the study and barely closed my eyes. Before sunrise, suitcase wheels rolled across the floor upstairs. Vivian opened the study door. She had changed into civilian clothes. Her hair was pulled back so tightly it sharpened her face. But the exhaustion under her eyes made her look older. Have you thought about signing? My attorney will contact yours. Her expression softened. I know this is cruel, Ethan, but feelings can't be forced. I nodded. Feelings can end. Money doesn't disappear because they do. Her face closed again. You always turn life into a spreadsheet. For 10 years, those spreadsheets kept this house running every time you were delayed, reassigned, sent to recurrent training, or called out overnight. You chose to do that. Yes, I said, and now I'm choosing to stop. For the first time. She looked uncertain. What does that mean? It means I won't renew your mother's supplemental insurance. I won't schedule your car service. I won't track the property tax notices. I won't stay awake to pick you up after midnight because you forgot to arrange a ride. Those are little things. Then you'll have no problem handling them. She stood there for a moment, waiting for me to take it back. When I didn't, she turned toward the hall. At the door, she said, once you calm down, maybe we can still be friends. I let the silence answer. In the bathroom, Vivian's travel-sized toiletries were lined up beside the sink. Whenever she left on short notice, I used to check the bottles, replace whatever was low, and pack them in a clear pouch so security would be easy. I put every bottle into that pouch and left it at the foot of the stairs. It was a small act. It was also the first time I understood that we no longer shared a daily life. Before meeting Olivia, I took half a day off work. My supervisor, Henry, didn't ask questions. He only reminded me that I was responsible for the afternoon flood response exercise. I sat in my car outside the office and remembered the day I drove Vivian to her flight academy interview. She had been too nervous to eat. I broke my breakfast sandwich into small pieces and handed them to her one at a time while she rehearsed radio calls under her breath. Afterward, she threw her arms around me. If I ever wear a captain's uniform, she had said, I'll never forget who got me there. I never used that promise as a debt. But when she finally forgot, I learned that a promise did not need to be collected in order to deserve respect. I did not believe she owed me a lifetime of love because I had supported her. I believed she owed me the truth before using my loyalty as cover for choices she had already made. Olivia's office stood across from the old civic courthouse. After listening to me, she folded her hands on the desk. Divorce law will not calculate emotional debt for you, she said. It can deal with property, obligations, and conduct that can be proven. The words steadied me. I didn't need a judge to confirm that I had been hurt. I needed facts that Vivian could not rename. We lived in a no-fault jurisdiction. Her affair would not automatically give me a larger share of everything. But if she had spent substantial marital funds on an outside relationship, or diverted assets for purposes that clearly did not benefit the marriage, the court could account for that during distribution. What do you need? I asked. Bank records, training invoices, the stated purpose of each transfer, a timeline, and patience. She leaned forward. Do not confront Noah. Do not contact the airline. Employment discipline belongs to the employer. Property division belongs to the court. Mixing them will make you look vindictive and cost you leverage. I understand. The bank statements showed repeated transfers to a private flight academy over the previous 9 months. The descriptions referenced simulator blocks, advanced instruction, and required course fees. There was also a security deposit for an apartment near the airport. On the day that deposit was paid, Vivian had told me her mother, Grace, needed emergency dental treatment. I had transferred money from our travel fund without asking a single question. Olivia had me write down each transaction, its date, and the explanation Vivian had given me at the time. By the 3rd page, my hand was shaking, not because of the amount, because the pattern proved this had not happened overnight. Vivian had been paving a road for Noah with pieces of our life. That afternoon, she emailed me a revised separation declaration. It stated that we had stopped living as spouses 6 months earlier. She asked me to sign because it would streamline the process. I wrote back that it was not true. She called immediately. We haven't had a real marriage in months, she said. That is separation. Who went with your mother to her specialist appointment 6 months ago? That's not the same thing. Who attended the airline winter banquet with you? Who picked you up on your birthday? Who slept in the same house? Paid the same bills? Planned the same future? Silence. Those things were appearances, she said. A court looks at facts. Not the story you need now. Her voice dropped. Are you trying to destroy my career? I haven't contacted your employer. If they think I started a relationship with Noah while I was supervising him, I could lose training privileges. It was the first time she admitted the relationship had begun earlier than she had claimed. I did not press her. I won't sign a false statement. You're punishing me. Refusing to lie for you is not punishment. She ended the call. I wrote down the time and a factual summary of what had been said. I did not record her. Olivia had warned me that the local law imposed strict consent requirements for private recordings. The written declaration, my refusal, and Vivian's own emails were enough to show that she had tried to establish a separation date that did not match our actual life. 3 days later, we attended a temporary use conference. Vivian came with her attorney, Charles Bennett. She argued that she needed uninterrupted rest between flights and should have exclusive use of the townhouse while I moved elsewhere. Olivia asked where Noah was living. Charles objected, calling the question irrelevant. Olivia placed the apartment deposit statement on the table. Vivian's face changed. She admitted the apartment had been rented for Noah, though she sometimes stayed there between assignments. That ended her claim that she had nowhere else available. The temporary agreement allowed us to occupy separate floors until the house was sold. We each had to pay an assigned share of the mortgage and household expenses. Neither of us could bring a romantic partner into the home for extended stays. Vivian pressed the pen so hard into the signature page that the tip nearly tore through. In the hallway, she blocked my path. You didn't need to drag Noah into this. You were the one who put him in our bank account. Living on separate floors was harder than I expected. I slept in the study. Vivian took the bedrooms upstairs. We divided the refrigerator with 2 clear shelves and labeled cabinets for groceries. The first time she realized I had stopped packing meals for her flights. She stood in front of the empty containers for several seconds. Can I take the soup? She asked. That's tomorrow's lunch. Her expression tightened as if I had refused a marital obligation. The temporary order requires us to keep the house functioning, I said. It doesn't require me to take care of you. The next day she brought home an airport meal, ate a few bites, and threw the rest away. She used to call my cooking plain. Now she was learning that plain food still required someone to shop, cook, portion, and plan around an irregular schedule. She left dirty uniform shirts in the laundry room. I did not touch them. A few days later, she couldn't find a clean one and arrived late for a briefing. You could have reminded me, she said that evening. The washing machine still works. She slammed the door. An hour later, she opened it again. How did you keep track of all this? I emailed her a copy of the household calendar template. Color-coded reminders covered vehicle service, insurance renewals, mortgage dates, tax notices, grocery rotation, medical appointments, and backup transportation. She stared at the screen. I didn't know there was this much. You didn't need to know, I said. I used to be willing to carry it. Why can't you carry some of it now? Because you treated my effort like weather. Something that would always be there. She did not regret leaving me yet. She was inconvenienced. That was different. She told Charles that I might be using household tasks to create emotional pressure. Olivia advised me to keep communication in writing and document all required expenses. A month later, Vivian stopped making that accusation. The records showed I had paid my share on time and completed necessary maintenance. I had withdrawn only the services no agreement had ever required and no one had ever valued. One night, she stood in the kitchen holding a statement from the flight school. The money will come back, she said. With what repayment schedule? Noah is talented. He'll be hired permanently soon. Her confidence made something painfully clear. She did not think she had betrayed me financially. In her mind, she had invested in someone promising. I was simply the old account she assumed would never close. Over the next 2 weeks, I removed my life from her flight schedule. I stopped checking arrival times. I canceled the companion lounge card attached to my account. I forwarded her vehicle service appointment and removed it from my calendar. I organized Grace's insurance records and delivered them to her house. Grace opened the door smiling. The smile faded when she saw the document folder. What did Vivian do? The question caught me off guard. I did not give details. We're divorcing. From now on, she'll need to manage your insurance and appointments. Grace held the folder against her chest. For years, she's acted like everything around her completes itself. It doesn't complete itself, I said. Someone completes it. Her eyes reddened. Is there any chance for the two of you? That question belongs to a life we no longer have. As I turned to leave, she called my name. When Vivian was a child, once she chose a runway, she stopped seeing anyone beside it. I thought that made her strong. Sometimes it only made her selfish. I did not answer. An explanation could describe a person. It could not absorb the consequences for them. Vivian felt the first real loss of my support after a night flight. She landed after midnight and discovered I had not come to the airport. She called 6 times. I saw the missed calls in the morning. Why didn't you answer? She demanded. My phone was on silent. My car is still being serviced. The taxi line was an hour long. The service reminder and replacement car options were in your email. She went quiet. Did you do this to embarrass me? I stopped staying on call for someone who chose to leave me. You've become cold. When you put divorce papers on our anniversary table, what temperature did you expect me to maintain? She had no answer. A few days later, she messaged me asking where the property tax statement was. In the housing folder on the shared drive. I don't have access. I sent a screenshot showing that her account had full permission. I'm boarding, she wrote. I don't have time to look. I did not respond. She paid the tax late and incurred a modest penalty. She tried to classify it as a joint expense. At our next financial review, Olivia showed that I had provided both the document location and access instructions on time. Vivian was assigned the penalty personally. She was furious. Marriage was never supposed to be calculated like this. Divorces. She watched me for a long time. She was waiting for the man who always softened at the sight of her exhaustion. That man had finally learned that mercy without boundaries was only another way to disappear. The house appraisal was scheduled for a Friday. While inspecting the basement storage room, the appraiser found an unopened crib frame behind several boxes. I had bought it 2 years earlier. Vivian had promised that once she completed her captain qualification, we would begin the foster to adopt process. Later, she asked me to hide it because seeing it made her anxious. The appraiser asked whether the crib should be included as a fixture. No, I said. It's personal property. Vivian stood on the basement stairs, pale and motionless. After the appraiser left, she asked, why didn't you get rid of it? Because I kept believing you when you said next year. I didn't mean to lie. When did you know you didn't want children? She sat on the bottom step and clasped her hands. Before I became captain. That had been 3 years earlier. Why didn't you tell me? I was afraid you'd leave. The answer took the air out of the room. You were afraid I would leave. So you let me keep waiting. I thought I might change. Uncertainty can be honest. Using someone else's life as a waiting room is not. For once, she did not argue. Then, after a few minutes, she looked up. If family mattered that much to you, why are you making this so final? Even then, she viewed the consequences as something I was doing to her. You asked to end the marriage. Her eyes held mine. I'm the one refusing to preserve every exit for you. After the appraisal, we discussed selling. Vivian wanted to buy out my share, but the lender declined her preliminary application. Her salary was high. So were her obligations. She was paying Noah's apartment lease, his private training costs, and a new line of credit. Charles advised her to reduce non-essential spending. She insisted every expense was temporary. Noah promised that once his training ended, everything would improve. I learned this through mandatory financial disclosures, not from rumor or surveillance. I made no comment beyond asking that every expense connected to Noah be flagged as disputed marital spending. Vivian began proposing private settlements. Attorneys are draining both of us, she said. I agreed that unnecessary legal fees help no one, but I required every offer in writing. She hated that. In the past, one tired phone call from an airport had been enough to make me decide something for both of us. Now, when her promises had to be written down, she discovered how few of them survived detail. She offered to let me keep more furniture if I dropped the claim for training expenses. The furniture was worth a fraction of the disputed amount. She offered a share of her next performance bonus. Olivia asked whether the bonus was guaranteed, when it would be paid, and what would happen if Vivian lost eligibility or changed positions. That proposal vanished. I did not enjoy watching her offers fall apart. I simply saw, for the first time, how often her promises about the future had depended on someone else carrying the risk. During the 3rd month of the divorce, I joined a metropolitan emergency mobility project. Our team was redesigning evacuation routes around the airport district for severe weather closures. At the first coordination meeting, I saw Amelia Hart. She sat across the conference table explaining bridge load limits and how they affected temporary shelter access. Her hair was shorter than it had been in college. Her voice was the same. When she looked up and recognized me, she paused for half a second. Amelia had been my first love. We had once talked seriously about building a life together. Then she accepted a multi-year engineering assignment in another region. And I had just met Vivian, at 25. I believed love demanded a dramatic choice. I stayed to support Vivian through flight school. Amelia did not blame me. Before leaving, she said, "I hope you learn the difference between loving someone and erasing yourself for them." Years later, I discovered the sentence had never left me. After the meeting, she walked over. "How are you?" "I'm getting divorced." She did not ask for details. "If working together is uncomfortable, I can request a different assignment." "That won't be necessary." She nodded and returned to the project. Her restraint made it easier to breathe. We did not rush into old feelings. In fact, Amelia and I did not truly become close again until a winter emergency exercise several months later. The scenario simulated a blizzard that closed every airport access road. Our team worked for more than 12 hours. At the end, people wanted to go home. Amelia insisted that an accessibility problem at one temporary shelter be included in the after-action review. A contractor dismissed it as a minor exercise detail. "The person who needs that ramp won't experience it as minor," she said. I watched her document the issue. For years, I had reduced my own unhappiness to manageable inconveniences. But when the same small thing is carried by one person every day, it changes the entire structure of a relationship. While we packed up, Amelia caught me looking at her. "What?" "I'm learning not to dismiss details." "That sounds like an executive summary." "I haven't practiced normal dating in a long time." She didn't tease me. "Are you ready to?" I considered the question. "Not completely." "Then we keep being friends." There was no disappointment in her voice. No pressure. For the first time, waiting did not feel like a test of loyalty. She did not ask me to suspend my life to prove I cared. We worked, saw our own friends, and spoke honestly about what made us cautious. Amelia once told me she was afraid I would retreat into the caretaker role whenever conflict appeared. "I don't want someone who looks calm while quietly collecting resentment," she said. "That's fair. It's also not only your problem. I tend to leave before I have to depend on anyone." We agreed to say what bothered us before it became sacrifice. When a project delay forced her to cancel dinner, she did not promise vaguely to make it up sometime. She gave me a new date, explained the delay, and asked whether it worked. It was an ordinary thing. That was why it mattered. A promise could be specific enough to keep. I also learned not to arrange my entire schedule around her. When she asked whether I was free on a weekend, I checked my own plans before saying yes. She never punished me for having a life. "A person with no life of his own can't really choose to share one," she said. For months, we saw each other only through work and occasional lunches. Amelia handled structural assessments and road capacity modeling. I coordinated emergency operations across agencies. She spoke directly. She listed risks before making decisions. When she did not know something, she said so, working beside her. I never had to guess whether her words matched reality. One night, a storm shut down the transit line after a late meeting. I offered her a ride. She glanced at the pale mark where my wedding ring had been. "Only as co-workers going the same direction." Of course. In the car, we talked about college. Amelia told me she had later been in a long relationship that ended when her partner wanted to relocate, and she didn't. She had not spent the years waiting for me. She had built a career, loved other people, been disappointed, and kept living. That made her safer to care about. At her apartment building, she kept one hand on the door handle. "Until your divorce is final, I'm not starting anything romantic with you. I understand. It's not because I don't care." She looked straight at me. I refused to become someone's explanation for why a marriage ended. I remembered Noah standing behind Vivian at our table. I don't want that either. At the same time, trouble began at Vivian's airline. At first, all I knew was that she canceled several house-related meetings because she had been pulled from scheduled flights. Then Charles requested an extension for financial disclosure, stating that Vivian was cooperating with an internal review. Olivia warned me not to speculate. "We asked for financial documents on time," she said. "We do not investigate her job." 2 weeks later, Vivian came to see me. She wore no uniform. Her face looked drawn. "The company is reviewing my training relationship with Noah." "What does that have to do with me?" She placed a statement on the table. It asked me to confirm that we had been living separate lives before she and Noah became involved. The language was more careful than the first declaration. It was still false. Shared public events were described as appearances. Joint finances and shared residence were called transitional arrangements. "Why are they investigating?" I asked. Someone questioned one of Noah's simulator records. Did you change it? No. The answer came too quickly. She looked away. There was an equipment irregularity. I marked the session incomplete instead of failed. Was the equipment actually malfunctioning? It was complicated. I slid the statement back. I'm not signing this. Vivian grabbed my wrist. This isn't only about training privileges anymore. If they think I influenced a trainee evaluation while I had a personal relationship with him, I could be suspended. I could lose the management track. I removed her hand. Those decisions belong to the company. You can prove our marriage was already over. What about the simulator record? She said nothing. What about the training money? That was a private loan. A supervising captain privately financing the trainee she evaluates does not look like an ordinary loan. Her face strained. I did not threaten her. I did not raise my voice. If the facts hurt you, you have to answer for them. I'm not rewriting them. Vivian stood. Are you with Amelia? The question surprised me. Someone saw you leaving the project office together. We work together. Why her? You do not get to audit my friendships. This is fast. Ethan. I almost laughed. She had brought Noah into our home with divorce papers and a packed suitcase. But seeing me leave a public office beside an old friend offended her sense of timing. I'm not using Amelia to hurt you, I said, and I won't stop living to reassure you. I never thought you would become this person. I never thought you would need me to stay the same so you could leave without fear. She walked out without another word. Later, I pieced together why the internal review expanded, not through stolen messages or anonymous rumors, through formal disclosures and records that existed for ordinary business reasons. Every training record change had a user account, timestamp, and reason field. Every simulator malfunction required a separate maintenance ticket. Vivian had changed Noah's result from near failing to incomplete, citing an equipment issue. The maintenance system did not support that explanation. At first, reviewers only requested clarification. Vivian wrote that the simulator had briefly malfunctioned and claimed another instructor had been present. That instructor, Mason Cole, confirmed he had entered the control room before the session but had not witnessed any malfunction. Reviewers then examined the full timeline. They found that after Noah's previous week evaluation, Vivian had requested that she remain assigned as his instructor for the next phase. She called it continuity. Another qualified instructor had already been scheduled, and there was no documented need for special follow-up. Expense reports created another problem. Several supposed instructional meals took place at private restaurants and lasted far beyond normal debrief periods. One receipt included overnight parking for 2 vehicles. Vivian said she had merely helped Noah resolve a transportation issue. Noah's written statement said they had acknowledged a romantic relationship that same evening. Both tried to reduce their own responsibility. Their explanations could not both be true. The review expanded from a single record discrepancy into an integrity and conflict of interest investigation. No witness appeared from nowhere. No one overheard a perfect confession. The evidence existed because training systems, maintenance systems, expense reports, and written responses had been created for legitimate reasons. The records contradicted each other until the truth had nowhere left to hide. What Vivian found hardest was not the accusation that she had fallen for a trainee. It was the suggestion that private desire had altered her professional judgment. She had built her identity around discipline. Now she had to face that she had not made one accidental mistake. At several separate moments, she could have disclosed the relationship, transferred supervision, corrected the record, or stopped paying Noah's expenses. Each time, she chose concealment. The review lasted nearly 2 months. The airline compared training logs, maintenance tickets, expense claims, instructor assignments, and internal communications. The maintenance log showed that the simulator issue Vivian cited had been resolved before Noah's session and that no new failure had been reported. Noah's approach stability performance had originally been noted as below standard. Vivian later changed the result to evaluation discontinued. The system preserved the edit. The company also found multiple private meals with Noah filed as trainee mentoring expenses. No single item proved deliberate manipulation. Together, they established a conflict she had repeatedly failed to disclose. I learned some of this because Vivian's required financial statement included an expected income change and quoted the notice suspending her training duties. Olivia discussed only how it affected her ability to buy the house. I did not contact the airline. I did not send the divorce records to the media. Vivian's professional consequences came from records she had created or approved herself. Noah tried to protect his future. He admitted accepting private financial support but claimed he had believed the money was Vivian's alone. He said she had insisted on remaining his supervising captain and told him her marriage had already ended. That did not save him. The company concluded that he had failed to disclose a personal relationship with his evaluator and had not recused himself when his assessment might be compromised. His trainee placement was terminated. He could not reapply to the program for a specified period. Vivian lost her instructor authorization and was removed from the management promotion track pending additional ethics and safety reviews. She did not lose her pilot license. She was not banned from flying forever. Real life did not collapse in one theatrical afternoon, but the path she had spent years building ended where her choices had cut across it. The first person to leave was not the airline. It was Noah. He moved out of the apartment and left a single key on the counter. Vivian called him. "Why are you doing this?" "The investigation cost me my career. I paid for your training. That's the problem," he said. "I don't know whether I was your partner or a debt I was trying to repay." Vivian later repeated that conversation to me during mediation. She did not cry. She rotated a paper cup between her palms until the rim bent. "He blamed everything on me. He protected himself. Did you always know he would?" "I knew that when he stood in my dining room. The first thing he protected was his trainee badge." She looked up. "You didn't used to be cruel. I used to find excuses for both of you." Vivian and Noah ended their relationship soon after. For a while, she assumed I would come back. I had not announced a new relationship. I had not rushed to buy another house. In her mind, that meant I was still waiting. She began using old private names in her messages. She sent photographs of airport sunrises and wrote that the color reminded her of me. She mentioned old routes and our first trip together. I did not mock her. I answered only when the subject involved legal or financial matters. One afternoon, she came to my apartment building without warning. The concierge called and asked whether I wanted to let her upstairs. I met her in the lobby. I did not bring her into my home. I was carrying a toolbox for a model bridge Amelia's nephew had broken. Vivian saw it. "Have you already given someone else all the patience you used to give me?" "Patience isn't property. I'll go to counseling," she said. "We can talk about children again. Do you want to become a mother? Or do you want to stop me from building a family with someone else?" Her mouth opened. No answer came. A child cannot be collateral for saving a marriage. I could learn. You probably can. I don't have to be the person who waits while you do. Tears filled her eyes. It was one mistake. Falling for someone might be called a mistake. Hiding what you wanted. Spending our savings. Influencing a trainee's record. And asking me to lie were separate decisions. 10 years should count for something. They do. 10 years are how I know I cannot spend another year testing the same promise. She stood in the lobby for a long time. Before leaving, she held out her wedding ring. I did not take it. "It was returned to you in the property inventory," I said. "The relationship it represented has already ended." Her hand slowly closed around the ring. For the first time, she seemed to understand that no object could reopen a door she had chosen to shut. At mediation, we returned to the disputed spending. The flight training, apartment costs, and related payments were treated as potential dissipation of marital assets. Vivian argued that some of the money was recoverable because it had been a loan. Olivia requested a promissory note, repayment schedule, interest terms, and evidence of Noah's ability to repay. Vivian had none. Noah had signed a vague acknowledgement of receiving funds. It listed no due date, no interest, and no security. The mediator described it as closer to a personal gift than a commercial loan. Ultimately, most of the disputed amount was charged against Vivian's share of the home equity. We did not fight over every meal or taxi ride. I accepted that some money would never be recovered. That was part of my cost. A 10-year marriage could not be unwound without loss. The townhouse was listed for sale. A couple preparing to adopt made the strongest offer. During their visit, one of them found the unopened crib frame in the basement and asked whether we would leave it. "Yes," I said. Vivian stood a few feet away. Her lips moved, but no words came. On closing day, she stopped me in the driveway. "Why did you give the crib to strangers? They'll use it." "Were you trying to hurt me?" "It belonged to a plan that never existed. I don't want to carry it into another home." Her eyes reddened. "I understand now that you really wanted to be a father. You always knew. You just needed me to keep waiting more than you needed to tell the truth." She lowered her head. After a long silence, she said, "I'm sorry." It was the first apology she had given without attaching a defense. I accepted the apology. I did not change my decision. After the sale, I moved into a smaller apartment near my office. From the living room window, I could see the elevated roadway and the distant lights of the airport. In the old house, I used to track Vivian's routes and guess which aircraft might be hers. I stopped checking. I bought a new dining table. No anniversary marks. No renovation plans. No folder containing a future that only one of us wanted. For the first time in years, I set my schedule according to my own work and sleep. I reapplied for a regional operations position I had turned down twice. Henry did not hand it to me out of sympathy. "You've declined travel and long-term assignments before," he said. "The team needs evidence that you're committed." That's fair. I took responsibility for a high-risk winter exercise and spent months proving I could manage the wider role. When I finally received the appointment, the raise was modest. What mattered was the return of my own direction. I was no longer the invisible system behind a captain's life. I was Ethan Cole, and I had a career of my own. Amelia kept her boundaries. We had lunch, discussed books and urban design, and sometimes walked after meetings. She never asked whether Vivian regretted what she had done. She cared more about whether I could make a decision without looking over my shoulder for permission. On the day the divorce became final, I sent Amelia a message. "It's done," she replied a few minutes later. "Don't eat alone tonight." We met at a small neighborhood restaurant. She pushed the menu toward me. "You choose." That sounds ordinary. Ordinary is underrated. It means no one has to guess the answer for someone else. We talked until the restaurant began stacking chairs. I told her I was afraid of using her to repair the past. She admitted she was afraid I wanted a relationship only to prove I was still worth choosing. "How do we know?" I asked. "We go slowly." So we did. I was not healed simply because the paperwork ended. Sometimes the sound of aircraft engines made my chest tighten. If Amelia did not answer a message for several hours, old suspicion could rise before reason caught up. I did not turn those feelings into accusations. I attended individual counseling. The counselor told me, leaving a controlling pattern is not the same as becoming free. Freedom begins when you stop letting the past make decisions for the present. I wrote the sentence on the last page of my work notebook. Amelia saw it one evening. She did not ask when I would be completely healed. "No one has to be unscarred to start living," she said. Our first official date was 2 months after the divorce. We did not discuss living together until more than a year later. Amelia had no children, but she was deeply involved in the lives of her sister's 2 boys. She did not romanticize family. She understood that children got sick at impossible times, broke furniture, rejected carefully prepared meals, and needed comfort when every adult was exhausted. She asked me whether I wanted the identity of being a father or the daily responsibility. I took time before answering. The responsibility. She did not reward me with an instant promise. We attended family care orientation together. We met with advisors about fostering, adoption, and the legal differences between them. We discussed income, housing, work hours, emergency contacts, transportation, and what support her sister could realistically provide. No one said next year as a way to end the conversation. Some answers remained uncertain. The uncertainty stayed on the table where both of us could see it. Vivian's regret did not begin when she saw me with Amelia. The moment that broke through her denial came during a winter evening. Grace fell at home and injured her wrist. Vivian was not flying that day, but she had forgotten the follow-up appointment. When Grace called, Vivian was attending an ethics course required by the airline. "Call Ethan," Vivian told her. There was a pause. Then Grace said, "Ethan isn't our emergency contact anymore." Vivian later told me that hearing those words left her unable to think of the next person to call. For 10 years, she had assumed that if she turned around, I would be there. She had mistaken a human choice for background scenery. She took Grace to the hospital herself. She handled the insurance forms, transportation, follow-up care, and home modifications. Nothing collapsed. She simply carried the full weight for the first time. Several days later, she sent me a long email. She wrote that she finally understood I had not taken care of her because my own life mattered less. I had done it because I had placed her near the center of that life. She admitted that she had mistaken stability for boredom and responsibility for confinement. She had confused Noah's admiration with understanding. She also admitted that her relationship with him had not been only about love. Noah was younger. He needed her recommendation. He looked at her as if she had already become the person she wanted to believe she was. Around him, she did not have to answer for postponing our future. She could remain the fearless woman always climbing toward the next altitude. I knew her exhaustion, doubt, vanity, and fear. With me, she had to decide what kind of life she truly wanted. She ran from the question. At the end of the email, she did not directly ask me to return. She asked whether we could get to know each other again. I waited one day before answering. Thank you for finally being honest. We do not need to meet again as strangers. I already knew you in the most real way two people can know each other. And I accept that our marriage is over. Her reply contained one word. Okay. We did not speak for a long time. 2 years later, Amelia and I decided to marry. We did not plan a grand wedding. The ceremony took place in a public garden beside the Metropolitan Emergency Center. The guest list was small. Only people who had actually shared our lives were there. Grace received an invitation. She called first. Would it be all right if Vivian came with me? No. Grace was quiet for a moment. I understand. A week before the ceremony, Vivian saw me at an airport transportation meeting. She had returned to regular flight duty. She had not regained her instructor authorization or management candidacy. Her uniform was as precise as ever, but her shoulders no longer held the same permanent tension. I heard you're getting married. I am. Amelia? Yes. She nodded. A careful smile touched her mouth. I guessed. People moved through the corridor around us. Vivian did not ask for privacy or demand an explanation. Is she better for you than I was? I considered the question. This isn't a ranking. Her eyes stayed on mine. I didn't leave because Amelia was better. You ended our marriage, and I finally stopped protecting every route back. Her eyes filled. If I hadn't brought Noah home that night, if I had admitted I was confused, would we have had a chance? Maybe. She took a breath. But you didn't make one confused choice. You hid the truth about children for 3 years. You spent our savings. You used your position to protect Noah. You asked me to establish a false separation date. I kept my voice low. Those decisions happened at different times. They all moved us toward the same end. Vivian looked down. I've thought about every point where I could have stopped. That is what regret is for. It should keep you from repeating the same choice. It cannot restart the past. When she looked up again, tears had reached her cheeks. She did not grab me. She did not ask for one last embrace. I hope you're happy. Thank you. We walked into different meeting rooms. On our wedding day, Amelia wore a simple white dress. When she reached me, she did not ask whether I had completely let go of the past. She took my hands. Are you ready to share the work of whatever comes next? I am. Our vows did not promise that we would never change. We promised to tell the truth when change came. We promised to face problems together. We promised that when we could not offer certainty, we would not leave each other waiting without an answer. After the ceremony, Amelia's nephew scattered petals in every direction and dropped the ring box into the grass. I bent to help him find it. Amelia laughed. This is the specific life you said you wanted. I looked at her. It is. Not long afterward, we completed our family care approval. A perfect ending did not arrive on schedule. Our first potential placement ended when the child's family reunification plan changed. Amelia grieved. I spent several sleepless nights staring at the ceiling. We did not hide disappointment from each other. We did not promise a date neither of us could control. We prepared again. Months later, a young girl named Lily came to stay with us under a long-term placement. On her first night, she sat beside the front door clutching her backpack and refused to enter the bedroom. I did not rush her. Amelia brought a small lamp and sat across the rug. The three of us stayed there quietly. After a long time, Lily asked, Are you going to decide you don't want me? Amelia looked at me. I crouched far enough away not to crowd her. Any important decision will be explained to you, I said. No one here will use silence to leave you waiting. As I spoke, I remembered the crib in the basement. For years, I had believed losing my marriage meant losing my chance to become a family. What I had lost was one person who did not want to walk toward the same life. A family was not one person sacrificing until nothing remained of him. It was people seeing each other's choices and accepting the daily work that followed. The difficult part began after Lily arrived. She woke screaming in the middle of the night. She hid food in her backpack because she feared there would be none the next day. The first time Amelia found stale bread inside, she reached for it. Lily clutched the bag and screamed. I sat near the doorway without moving closer. The food in the kitchen won't disappear because you take too much, I said. She did not believe me. For weeks, we checked the refrigerator together before bed. Amelia let Lily choose the next morning's breakfast. I stored food in clear containers so she could see what remained. There was nothing dramatic about the repetition. That was how safety formed. The same morning. Again and again. Until a child stopped waiting for abandonment. One evening, an emergency meeting kept me late. Lily sat by the window until I came home. Her face was closed. I did not tell her only that work had been busy. "I'm sorry," I said. "Next time I'm delayed, I'll send an exact time and ask Amelia to show you the message." Do adults always forget promises? Adults make mistakes. They don't get to pretend the mistake didn't happen. Amelia watched me. We both knew where I had learned that lesson. We never used Vivian as a villain in Lily's life. A child did not need to carry adult history. But everything I had learned shaped the small things. Family was not saying I will never leave. Family was explaining where you were going before you left the room. It was calling when you would be late. It was making a new plan when you could not keep the old one. Those ordinary rules had once been the things I lacked most. Occasionally, Vivian's name appeared in industry updates. She completed the additional safety review and remained a line captain. She did not return to training or management. Grace told me Vivian had learned to manage family appointments and spent regular days off with her. Vivian did not suffer a spectacular destruction. She lived with a permanent, ordinary consequence. She lost the person she had once believed was guaranteed. Noah eventually joined a small cargo operator and started again in an entry-level position. He repaid a limited portion of the training money. The rest was treated as unrecoverable under our settlement. Vivian did not continue pursuing him. Perhaps she finally understood that some losses do not purchase a second chance. They simply teach a person that choices are never free. One afternoon, Lily watched an airliner lift from the airport observation deck. "Are pilots brave?" she asked. "Yes." "Is being brave always flying forward?" I thought about it. Sometimes being brave means admitting you're going the wrong way and turning while there is still time to land safely. Amelia stood beside me and slipped her hand into mine. The aircraft crossed the clouds and left a white line behind it. I did not wonder who sat in the cockpit. I looked down and listened to Lily's next question. For 10 years, I had waited for one person to land. Eventually, I understood that life was not an airport. I did not need to stand beneath the same arrival board forever to prove that my love had been real. I could leave the terminal. I could walk towards someone willing to share an actual life. Whether Vivian still thought of me after a night flight, I did not know. Whether regret ever kept her awake no longer mattered. She had the life her choices had made. At last, so did I. It was not revenge. It was not victory. No one had to lose everything in public. I simply stopped cleaning up after her. I stopped explaining for her. I stopped waiting for her. I took back the time that belonged to me. Then I used it to build a home where love would never be written as another delay notice.